Let me think. It was ninth grade, Romeo and Juliet.
What did you get out of that experience?
I want to get out of the experience.
Well, what was your reaction to it?
Oh, it was totally life-changing.
How so?
Well, because this is weird. I don't want to tell you about it. Do you have to ask me questions?
Yeah, this is
I have to interview. You have to.
It's an interview.
Oh,
That's what this is.
I just wanted to talk.
Well, you can talk, but you've got to talk in response to me and answer my questions. Want to start over again?
Yeah. I don't like this part.
What was your introduction to Shakespeare?
I remember everything about my introduction to Shakespeare because I was in ninth grade in Mrs. Barbara Earnhardt's class. And the day before we were to start, she had us write down what we thought our reactions to Shakespeare would be. And I wrote that I planned to hate it because I know it's going to be boring and it's going to be hard to understand and just generally negative. So, and then the next day, when we actually started reading Romeo and Juliet, I completely reversed my opinion. And she was such a brilliant teacher that she made it live. And I knew by the end of that day, the first day reading Romeo and Juliet, that sometime in my life I would teach Shakespeare. Wow. And that I knew, in ninth grade, from one day's experience.
Ninth grade, it's interesting because you've taught Shakespeare to both middle school kids and to high school kids.
Yes.
How is the reaction of the students different between those two very different age groups?
Well, I tried to use the method that Mrs. Earnhardt used with us, which we were kind of in the middle, being freshmen in high school. So I tell them that Shakespeare is not above using a dirty joke. She did something that was really interesting for the time, in that she, the first day after we finished our first lesson of Shakespeare, she sent all the girls out of the room and they had to go stand in the hall. And then she kind of got the boys up to the front of the room and she was very quiet and said, well, listen, when Shakespeare says things like prick, he's not always talking about swords. She said Shakespeare was not above a dirty joke. And so, of course, that set all of us, on the way home on the bus that day, we were just pouring through Romeo and Juliet looking for any kind of sexual reference we could possibly come up with. And so we were all hooked. But there was a funny story in conjunction with that. There was a young lady who had had a serious back operation who was going to school by phone, and we had speakers in the room. And Mrs. Earnhardt forgot that her speaker, her name was Marcia, Marcia's speaker was on while the other girls had gone out of the room. And so after she finished telling us all these dirty things about Shakespeare, she went, oh my gosh, Marcia, how long have you been there? And Marcia goes, long enough. So Mrs. Earnhardt was mortified, but we all thought it was hysterical.
How many Shakespeare productions do you think you've seen?
30, 40, maybe more. Who knows? It depends on if you're talking about amateur production, high school.
Which one stands out the most?
Which one stands out the most? Boy, that's a great question. The one that stands out the most is the film of Henry V by Kenneth Branagh, which is my absolute favorite Shakespeare play.
Why is it your favorite?
I just like the character of Prince Hal becoming Henry V, and the St. Crispin's Day speech, and winning despite overwhelming odds to the contrary. It's just inspiring history. It's rewritten history, but it's inspiring history.
So you've been learning about Shakespeare for a long time. You've been teaching Shakespeare for a long time. Do you think there's anything more for you to learn about Shakespeare?
No, there's always something new in Shakespeare scholarship. It's just amazing. Always something new coming up, some new theory about how he did something, or who is the real Shakespeare. All the, I'm not given to conspiracy theories, but it's always fun to hear those stories about who the real Shakespeare was. And if I could have one question answered about the universe, that would be, did Shakespeare write all those plays by himself?
What's your favorite Shakespeare quote?
It is, "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers," from Henry V.